Spend the next half hour with Sri Klemp, the Mahanta, the Living Egg Master. As the spiritual leader of Ekenar, Sri travels worldwide, giving out the teachings of the light and sound of God.
A man had come to the end of his life, and when he awoke, he found himself in the other worlds. He was walking along a road. Alongside him was his trusted, loyal companion, his dog, who had passed on years before. So the man's walking along and says, I must have passed on too. So they walked a long while until on the one side of the road, they found this wall, this beautiful white wall. It seemed to be made of the finest marble. The road led up a long hill, and this wall ran along beside it. And so he and his dog walked up the hill, came in front of these gates, and then he looked at the gates. They were of mother of pearl, beautiful, beautiful gates. And the street leading up to the gate, which was set in a little, was of gold, pure gold. So he walked up to the gate, and there was a man seated at a table off to one side. The traveler asked him, he says, where am I? The man said, this is heaven. The man said, boy, that's good. Say, my dog and I have come a long ways and we're very thirsty. Do you suppose we could have a drink of water? The man said, I'll bring you some ice water, but I'm sorry, pets are not allowed. The man's thinking to himself, what a deal. Here's this, my friend, my dog, faithful, loyal, all those years. Am I just going to turn my back on my dog and leave him out here? So the man sadly turned his back on the pearly gates and the golden street, and he continued down the road. After a while he came to a dirt road. He followed it, and it came to what looked like the entrance to a farm. There was a gate in front, but it seemed as if it had never been shut. There were no fences alongside, and as he looked off to one side, there was a man reading a book, leaning against a tree. He calls to the man, he says, where am I? The man says, this is heaven. Well, the traveler says, this is confusing. I just stopped up the road at the pearly gates, and the guy at the desk said that was heaven. And the man leaning against the tree says, nope, that's hell. Well, then the man said, we've traveled a long way. Do you suppose I could get some water? The man says, sure. There's a pump right over there. And it didn't show from the entranceway, but off to one side there was one of these old-fashioned pumps where you go up there, pour a little water in there to get the thing working, and then you pump, and water comes out. Oh, and he said, oh, by the way, and my dog here is thirsty too. What about him? My friend here. He said, oh, there should be a dish right at the base of the pump there somewhere. He's welcome to share with you. Man's thinking, hey, this is pretty good. It's pretty good. So he says to him, doesn't it make you kind of mad that up the road they're claiming to be heaven? And you're heaven here? And the man leaning against the tree says, No, he says, we're just glad that they screen out the folks who give up their friends for a bit of material goods. Phyllis was a young girl whose mother suffered, or actually got a very serious illness when Phyllis was a young girl. And then some 20 years later, the mother finally passed on. But the family was non-practicing Jews, Catholics, and Lutherans. And then 2 years, though, before her mother's death, Phyllis was in a serious car accident. It threw her out of the body through the third eye, or the spiritual eye. And she went into a wonderful place that was somehow very familiar and comfortable. She was watching a series of small screens. There were about 4 or 5 frames to each of the scenes. There were many people in them showing many different scenarios. What she didn't realize until later was that this was the Ekvidya, or the prophecy of the future, the ancient science of prophecy. And so, just as she was saying, well, that's very interesting, the next thing she knew, she came back into this world in a blinding flash. Now, she never told anyone about the experience itself, but she tried to find answers in her church. She had, in the last 4 years, become a member of the Catholic Church, and she found no answers. And so she began to go into the writings of Elizabeth Kubler-Ross and near-death experiences. And she studied this and came to an understanding that maybe there was something more to existence than just a single lifetime. And then some time after her mother died, this was a short time later, she had a dream, and this led to an out-of-body experience again. A man spoke very loudly to her and said, "Soul does not repeat itself." And she had no idea what it meant. But later, as she was listening through the next 2 hours, this man showed her a history of life on earth from the dinosaurs through to modern times. And when he had finished, he showed her pictures and other things too. And when he finished, she said, "I'll never remember this." And he said, "Don't worry. You will remember what you need to, and the rest doesn't matter." At this time, Phyllis already had a sense that there was more to life than a single lifetime. There was something to reincarnation. And this was as close as the feeling had come. But now she realized that soul does not repeat itself, because soul doesn't. Soul is eternal. Soul is soul. It takes on many different forms throughout its many lifetimes in the lower worlds. But at the end of each lifetime, soul sheds that material form, and then when soul comes back to get more experiences in the lower worlds, it will take on a new form. And so this goes on for lifetime upon lifetime. And then when Phyllis was nearly 50 years old, she found the Ek teachings, took the second initiation. And she likes to do the initiate reports because, as so many of you have found, it gives a chance to unburden yourself from the cares and the troubles that have come along to you. And the second initiation is very important. It's like a plane approaching the sound barrier. Sometimes the ride gets rough. But when this happens, remember that it's only soul meeting itself. Soul meeting the imperfections that need to be purified so that it can become a better and more clear channel for the Holy Spirit, for the Ek. And so when Phyllis wrote this, she'd mentioned she had learned 7 lessons to that point. I would like to list them for you. The first was, her level of consciousness is equal to her level of acceptance. I think I'll give these without explanation, because most explain themselves. 2, peace cannot be transmitted unless the other person is ready for it. You see, Phyllis began in her youth as a painter. She worked with jewelry and things of that nature. But after her first out-of-body experience in the car accident, she took up a whole new life. This gradually opened up for her, and she counseled and trained, evaluated disabled children, and she worked with them for many years. And so over the years she has found herself traveling all over the world, consulted by many professionals, and she has helped so many people and families with disabled children. And then she realized, in looking back to the first out-of-body experience, when she said, well, that's interesting, where she saw all these little pictures. She was seeing into the future. She was seeing the people she would one day serve and work with. Now, many years later, she recognized that. Point number 3, what appears negative in the beginning may have a completely positive ending later. 4, she is responsible for what she knows and must be honest about what she doesn't know. That's especially important for a counselor. 5, to be loving and give love is more important than being right. And sometimes we say, is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? Use those 3 criteria before speaking in practically any situation. 6, one does not struggle to convince others, but rather oneself. 7, to listen quietly is the best teacher. Now, these were the 7 lessons she had learned so far after being in Ekenar for just a few years. Susan and Rich are pets in the home of 3 cats. And the cats run the household for the most part. Rich and Susan, they pretty much try to give the cats love and help out where they can, you know, not get underfoot, things like that. Susan and Rich usually arrange themselves around the cats, and that's how things run in that household. Well, one morning at 4 o'clock, Susan wakes up from a deep sleep to this purring in her ear. And there is Simon, the boy cat, very politely trying to wake her up. Right by her ear. That isn't his spot, you know. So she looks at his spot, which is close to her chest, and there's his sister Bella. Well, what had happened, Simon apparently woke up, decided to go get a midnight snack. While he's at the food dish in the kitchen, Bella sees his place is empty, and of course, brothers and sisters being what they are, Bella took his place right next to Mom. And when Simon came back, he looked there and he said, "You're in my spot. Get over, move." And of course, Bella just pretended to sleep. Paid no attention to him. Now, Simon's a very polite cat, and so he couldn't figure out quite what to do, and then he decided, well, he'll go right up to Mom's ear and purr in her ear. And then if Mom wakes up just by chance, well, then Mom will make things right. Mom woke up, saw what the situation was, and she did something entirely different. She moved over further in bed, made room for Simon, brought Simon in there, held him close, and Simon was in heaven. This was the way it was supposed to be. He was back in his spot, in Mom's arms, and Bella was out there somewhere. Fair's fair. So very soon, there's Simon, sleeping and snoring with all content. Husband and Bella are asleep too, and the other cat asleep. 3 cats, a husband, all asleep. Susan's lying there, awake at 4 a.m. And she said, "Mahanta, what's going on here?" And so the inner master, who is the Mahanta, sent this understanding to her, and she realized then that the Ek, or the Holy Spirit, and sometimes through the agent of the Mahanta, moves the individual out of his spot. And so then when the individual comes back, he says, "Hey, I can't get back to my spot." The Master says, "Not to worry. I've moved over for you. Come, be as close and closer than ever. And then everything's okay." Now this is exactly the way it works in Act 2. Change. Change is always coming to cause people discomfort. When change comes, they say, oh no, let's have it the way it used to be in the past, yesterday, 5 minutes ago. For heaven's sake, please. But no, it's time to move on spiritually. Because in Ek you'll find, as a second initiate and up, that life will have you meet yourself, because that's the only way you can walk forward on the secret path to God. And so some of us meet ourselves and we wonder, could I really have been responsible for all these effects going on now? Could I really have done anything to deserve this? Rest easy. Yes. So you might as well do it now or do it over. I'd like to give a spiritual exercise quickly here for the Ekvidya, and I haven't given a spiritual exercise at these talks for a while. The reason I haven't given spiritual exercises is there are a great number of them now. The point is, experiment with them. Custom fit them with the help of the inner master. That is the counterpart to myself as the outer teacher. Work with the spiritual exercises, modify them. And sometimes you'll grope around a bit before you come on one that feels right, is right. And the test of the pudding is in the eating. Does the spiritual exercise work? Are you noticing more clarity in your inner experiences and the like? Now this spiritual exercise, as I said, is for the Ekvidya. It's actually 3 parts, very simple. You can do this in addition to the regular spiritual exercise you're doing or in place of for a couple of nights if you want to put attention on the Ekvidya. A brief explanation of the Ekvidya is that it's the ancient science of prophecy. Basically, it looks at the present and the future. It gives a good look at the forces that are behind the events that affect you today. It can also, when you're ready, and this is a big, when you're ready, show you certain parts of the future toward which you are moving. All right, 3 simple parts. First, sing Chariot once, slowly. This, of course, stands for the Chariot Ki Sugmad, the Holy Bible of Ek. 2 volumes are in print out here in the physical world. So just sing Chariot, like so or similar. And then Hugh. Sing that one time. Hugh. And then, for the 3rd part, sing Ekvidya, Ekvijja. Like so, and then go to sleep as usual. Now here, I recommend you keep a dream log or a dream journal, and then write down the important memories. And then if you like, you may send them to your experiences, the most significant ones for you, send them along in an initiate's report. Write them down at least for yourself, even though you don't mail the initiate's report. But I do like to keep in touch with you out here too. So occasionally, once every few months or once or twice a year, put together the best of the best and say, this is what happened, this is what you've learned on your own secret path to God. There are so many things that cannot be said, and for that reason, this is the Ek Mystery School. It's the secret path to God. You've got to walk that path yourself. No one else can do it for you, which is sort of like a takeoff on the country song for those of you who know the song. I welcome those of you who are new to Ek. Perhaps you'll find something here that has been of use to you. There are a number of visitors here again this evening, and some new initiates, second initiates. And so I'd like to welcome all of you and pass to you my love and greetings. May the blessings be. Thank you very much.